Van kunstbeen af, met raad en saam, met leiding en hoop, verdriet en saam staan jy staan. Jy is altyd daar. Dit wat ons doen, ons liefdes, ons vreugdes, ons plekke, ons thuistes, tot daar waar ons reis, jy is daar. Afrikaans is ons wese. Dis die taal waarin ons groeit, die taal is in ons bloed, is Afrikaans, vir ons mense. En ek stuur vir jou 'n sy, met 'n boodskap daarby, en waar jy is, sal jy dit kry, in Afrikaans vir ons mense. Al verander straatname, al word helde laat val, ons is steeds deur ons adem, ons kultuur, ons verhaal, dit sal altyd bestaan. Afrikaans is ons wese. Dis die taal waarin ons groeit, die taal is in ons bloed, is Afrikaans, vir ons mense. En ek stuur vir jou 'n sy, met 'n boodskap daarby, en waar jy is, sal jy dit kry, in Afrikaans vir ons mense. Ons is daarmee gebore, die taal waarvoor ons staan, dit vloei deur ons are, ons kinders praat het saam, dit sal altyd bestaan. Afrikaans is ons wese. Dis die taal waarin ons groeit, die taal is in ons bloed, is Afrikaans, vir ons mense. En ek stuur vir jou 'n sy, met 'n boodskap daarby, en waar jy is. Dis die taal waarin ons groeit, die taal is in ons bloed, is Afrikaans, vir ons mense. En ek stuur vir jou 'n sy, met 'n boodskap daarby, en waar jy is, sal jy dit kry, en Afrikaans vir ons mense. Afrikaans vir ons mense. Afrikaans vir my mense. Afrikaans vir ons mense.
I'm saying bye to all the lies and all the times you cried, saying that I wasn't right, yet I was right by your side. You manipulator, playing games, your friends commentators, and I don't know what you say about our private conversations, but it's got them hating. Thanks to all the rumors you be claiming, it's cool, I'm done with you, so they can throw you a celebration. You gon' hate it when you see me with somebody living better. I'm trying to tell you that me just doing me gon' have you jealous.
October 1st, 2024. Decrepit, demented, senile, whatever he is, Joseph Robinette Biden has led America into a conflagration in the Middle East, making us a de facto belligerent in Iran's illegitimate, illegal crimes against humanity conflict against Israel. Joseph Robinette Biden sent U.S. missiles to attack those missiles fired at Israel, a non-treaty partner, one we have no treaty alliances responsibilities to. He's now embroiled us in a war of his own choosing. Americans will die, American interests will be harmed, America's reputation will be damaged, and our national treasure will be squandered, much like the proxy war that Joe Biden has conducted in Ukraine for the past 2.5 years. This man is a war criminal and should be addressed as such. Unbelievable mistakes, what he's doing here to cover up his corruption in Ukraine, sending them now close to, $250 billion, while denying Americans aid in the greatest devastation to the East Coast as a consequence of a hurricane in living memory. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. For those who missed it, yesterday Iran fired close to 200 ballistic missiles at civilian targets in Israel, an unprovoked attack, a day which will live in infamy, a date which marks the death of the Iranian theocratic regime. When Israel and the United States strike back, Tehran will be glass, and there will be many who die as a consequence of the foolish move by the mullahs in Iran, attacking Israeli civilians, firing missiles intended to target civilians at civilian centers and cities. These are crimes against humanity, which were outlawed after the Second World War. This is a disgraceful act by a cabal of corrupt, sick, twisted, demented lunatics who twist a religion to fit their purposes of medieval garbage. Unbelievable. And we will suffer the consequences of it. We're already suffering the consequences of sending $250 billion to fight a war in Ukraine, stripping our ammunition stocks. We have virtually no 155 howitzer ammunition available in our stocks, despite the fact that the ammunition factory in Scranton, Pennsylvania has apparently produced 3 million additional rounds since this war began and shipped them all to Ukraine. Our stocks stripped, America left defenseless. 1/3 of our Navy currently sitting in the Eastern Mediterranean, engaged in a conflict with Iran. Yeah. Meanwhile, the Houthis continue to attack shipping in the Red Sea, and the U.S. does nothing about that. Instead of pummeling the Houthis, we are firing missiles at the Iranians. Well, their missiles anyway. Unbelievable what's happening around the world, folks. This is just sad and pathetic. Meanwhile, last night, J.D. Vance and Tim Walz had a debate. It actually was a debate, unlike the farce that was the debate between the presidential candidates, which was not a debate. It was simply a media attack show and a festival of plethora of lies coming from Miss Sewage Mouth herself, Kamala Harris. But this was an actual debate, and a civil one at that. Nonetheless, it was debate. Fascinating to see the leftists try to twist themselves around and claim that J.D. Vance was wrong. These are mostly the leftists abroad. In America, there's a bit of a toning down by the leftist media and actually admitting the truth that J.D. Vance wiped the floor with Tim Walz last night. Pablo Charlie says, don't spoil what? Oh, the debate? You have to watch it. But I will be covering a little bit. So, hey, folks, let's say hello to everybody in the chat here. We'll get started. That was kind of my opening monologue here. America is at war, courtesy of Joe Biden. Thank you, Joe, for putting us in war. We've all but been at war in Ukraine for the past 2.5 years. We are definitely at war now. And we cowardly slunk out of Afghanistan, squandering 2 decades of progress and leaving the Afghan women and now men subjected to medieval, tyrannical lunatics who execute women just because they look the wrong way. If you don't think that's true, I saw the video when they took over Kabul. It's true. All right, let's get to the news here. Small audience today. Don't know what's going on. Maybe because we started early. But let's get started. Many news articles cover here, so let me try to get through some of these. First off, impeached former public prosecutor, defender, Bezuidenhout Mkhwebane is disappointed. Okay, gotcha, Charlie. Yeah, she's disappointed in the outcome as her case was thrown away. And she goes on the attack in a racist manner. Will she be charged with criminal injuria for this racist assault? Impeached Mkhwebane attacks Indian persecutors after the Supreme Court of Appeal struck her dead on arrival appeal. Former public protector Bezuidenhout Mkhwebane has come out guns blazing after her appeal to the Supreme Court of Appeals was struck from the rolls and she was ordered to pay cost. Wow. Advocate Dali Mpofu, who represented Mkhwebane rather poorly before the court, was slammed for even attempting to pursue the matter. Had counsel stepped back a pace or had Miss Mkhwebane taken advice from her disinterested member of the bar, schooled in appellate practice, she would have been advised not to pursue this appeal, which self-evidently was dead on arrival. So she went through Twitter with racist commentary. She said, I lodged the appeal with the hope of seeking justice and clarity. However, it was evident that Judge Poonen, leading the judgment, displayed noticeable arrogance and dismissive throughout the proceedings. My ongoing struggle has consistently involved key figures, predominantly of Indian descent, who have positioned themselves as my persecutors. Now, that in itself is not racist, but you know where she's going with this. She said, these individuals, including Pravin Gordhan, dead, Bawa, the evidence leader, Adhir Kiri, Chief Legal Advisor of Parliament, Hassan Ibrahim, so-called expert witness, she calls him, Yvonne Pile, witness, and Fatima Abraham, legal advisor. Judge Poonan's attitude further underscored the challenges and biases I've faced in my quest for justice. You haven't faced any bias. You were wrong, and they got rid of you. Hey, you're the one that went after Cyril Ramaphosa. You're the only one after Cyril Ramaphosa, but you failed. And you got to take it on the chin there, dear. This experience has been one of immense disappointment and frustration, revealing a deeply ingrained bias that continues to obstruct genuine justice. She was impeached in September last year and removed from her office. Yeah. She claimed bias against Dinyante Milam, who was the wife of DA MP Natasha Mazzone. Who is the wife of Natasha? I'm sorry. Natasha Mazzone is a woman. Milam is her wife? Oh, she's gay. I didn't know that. That's the first time I ever heard that Natasha Mazzone is lesbian. Wow. The High Court application was dismissed in April 2023. Wow. You learn something every day, huh? No idea that the Nancy Pelosi bootlicking lover, Natasha Mazzone, who can't seem to get her hair color straight, is a lesbian. That was news to me. Wow. Interesting. Well, you know why it's news to me? Because I don't care. It's not newsworthy. But they stuck it in there. It is newsworthy from the standpoint that her partner is engaged in a sexual relationship, an emotional relationship with her, and so there could be a conflict of interest. That's a fair point. That is a fair point. But saying the wife, that kind of threw me off. Anyway, incompetent and corrupt, the economic freedom fighters are slamming John Steenhuisen's first 100 days in the government of national unity. Well, what I'd have to say about that is incompetent and corrupt. You are looking in the mirror, economic freedom fighters. You are incompetent, you are corrupt, and you're race hustlers. What have you accomplished in a decade of existence other than making Julius Malema wealthy and defrauding the people of the vendor tribe? Nothing. But let's go back to this story. Minister appointing unqualified cronies and white supremacists. Ooh, okay. White supremacists. You better back that up with facts. They don't, of course. EFF has criticized Agriculture Minister John Steenhuisen's first 100 days in office, labeling the department flagrantly incompetent and corrupt. Really? On the basis of what? 100 days in, how is the department corrupt? So it was not corrupt and it was not incompetent 101 days ago? This is like Action SA saying that Cilliers Brink is responsible for 9 billion rand of debt and not paying 6 billion rand to ESCOM. Based on the auditor's report. Of course, the auditor's report covered the fiscal year 2022 to March 31st of 2023, and Cilliers Brink was the mayor of Shwane during that fiscal year for a grand total of 1, 2, 3. It's like, how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Tootsie Pop? 1, 2, 3. Seriously? This is nonsense. 100 days. So the department wasn't corrupt or incompetent before John Steenhuisen took over 100 days ago. These are clearly comments by race hustlers and morons who've never served in a leadership position. Oh my goodness. He continues to cling onto his catered deployment appointments of his unqualified cronies and white supremacists while trying to bend the rules to push them through. Steenhuisen's request for a deviation from the minimum appointment requirements for his candidates shows his blatant disregard for the rules that govern public office appointments, said Leanne Matisse from the EFF. Well, first off, there's a process that allows a minister to request people who don't have the qualifications to be in the position. So he's not flagrantly disregarding anything. He did a legitimate request. It's up to the government whether they decide whether these people can be there or not. So first off, you don't know what you're talking about, Leon. You are so desperate for attention in the EFF. His nominations of Annette Steen, Una Christians, Charity McCord, and Mr. Kruger are an insult to the hardworking, qualified South Africans who are being overlooked in favor of Steenhuisen's politically connected friends. Who are these hardworking South Africans who've been overlooked? Please give us their names. We'd like to meet them, because they surely weren't working in agriculture before this. 3 of these 4 candidates only possess matrix certificates. Oh my God, they've only graduated high school. They must be functionally illiterate. I mean, if they're ANC graduates, they'd be functionally illiterate. Oh, 30, and 40%. You go to university. Oh boy, they must be university graduates. No. So all that matters to these clowns is a piece of paper, a sheepskin, which means nothing other than you can accomplish a task. That's all it means. I have a room full of sheepskins. Associates, bachelor's, master's degrees, ABD. Everything. Doesn't make me smart. Doesn't make me qualified. It could, but it doesn't. Wow. The last one, not having enough experience for the role. Well, who are you, the EFF, to determine who has enough experience? One of the controversial figures appointed by Steenhuisen was podcaster Roman Kabanek. His appointment sparked outrage due to some of his past social media posts. Despite Steenhuisen asking Kabanek to resign, he remains in his position, claiming he never refused to step down. Well, he was never asked to step down. John Steenhuisen asked him if he would consider stepping down. He said he's not going to consider it. So there you go. That isn't asking someone to step down. Kabanek is now refusing to step down, rightly pointing out that Steenhuisen was fully aware of his racist background before he... Oh! Criminal injuria! Oh! Now Leon Matis has got herself in legal jeopardy here. Yes. Oh, racist background. You have no evidence that he is a racist. That's a lie. You're just race hustling, Leon Matis. In South Africa, you're not allowed to do that. You don't have free speech there. Your speech is constrained, limited to protect the dignity of others. You know, because the ANC is so thin-skinned, because anytime you say anything, you talk about creatures, oh, racism. You talk about colors, oh, racism. You talk about food, oh, racism. Good Lord. This demonstrates not only Steenhuisen's poor judgment, but also his complicity in fostering white supremacist and racist individuals in government and his lack of commitment entirely to his job. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up, you moronic dipshit. My goodness. I've had enough of these idiots. You can't broker and tolerate this garbage. You got no evidence of anything there. You're just a slimy, filthy, nasty human being. She attributed delays in finalizing appointments, workers' salaries, and departmental progress to Steenhuisen's alleged catered deployment. So, what appointments are not finalized? What's going on workers' salaries? They're getting paid. And what is the departmental progress that you're talking about hasn't been done? Nothing offered here, just lies. These people need to be taken out and given a lesson in humility. The EFF will continue to expose and fight against the corrupt practices of Steenhuisen and all those who seek to undermine the functioning. Yeah, shame on you, Times Live, that you even run a story like this. Innocentia Mbadking, you're a shameful person. A shameful person. Did you contact DA? They reached out to DA for response, but the party refused to comment. Well, you shouldn't be reaching out to the DA. You should be reaching out to the minister. Did you reach out to the minister? Of course, the DA refused to comment. This is not a Democratic Alliance issue. This is a government of South Africa issue. Reach out to the government of South Africa. Reach out to the Ministry of Agriculture. Reach out to the Minister of Agriculture. You're a disgraceful person. This is not journalism. Innocentia Nkadebeng, journalist, is what it says right there. Really? Really? That's not journalism. That's yellow journalism. That's sensationalism. Utter garbage. Media's trash too, Dylan. Speaking of the media, the Sunday Independent has withdrawn from the press council because their feelings were hurt. This is not over the Ronaldo Gos case, which is going to affect the IOL very seriously. So are media outlets allowed to just, in South Africa, they're licensed in South Africa, allowed to just leave the press council? Is it a voluntary organization to oversee groups? It probably is. We have them in the States. We have groups that are voluntary that we use to regulate. The American Medical Association is not controlled by the state. It's a private organization. It sets standards for physicians. So can they leave? Can they still publish? Well, apparently they can. Sunday Independent has announced its immediate withdrawal from the Press Council of South Africa, citing concerns over media censorship and a curtailing of freedom of expression. Folks, this is nonsense. This is just utter ridiculous nonsense. I mean, seriously, this is ridiculous. Wow. So this all comes as a consequence of a vile op-ed that was published earlier this year. And this is masquerading as opinion when it was character assassination. Now, I'm not defending Karen Malm because, you know, she's been character assassinating Ronaldo Gos and others with her criminal injuria and her libel. But I do defend the facts. So Karen Malm was attacked by Edmund Peary on March 3rd of this year in the IOL and the Times. And or the Sunday Independent, excuse me. And her article, or that the article about her, attacked her. So let me give you a little flavor of what was said in that article. The boundaries between fair reporting and propaganda journalism and filmmaking can sometimes become blurred. No, they can't. No, they can't. They're very clear what the boundaries are. Sadly, in her reporting, Karen Malm has chosen to operate more as a propagandist than as a journalist. Okay, that's his opinion, and he's entitled to his opinion. And frankly, the way she's behaved, I would have to agree with him. Since joining News 24 in 2020, Mkhwebane has focused her career on negatively reporting against prominent black leaders and businessmen while ignoring legal issues affecting white individuals or companies. That's a factually incorrect statement. It's an utter lie. Look how she's castigated and attacked Mkhwebane and Ronald Khoz without any basis of fact whatsoever. And they're not the only ones. They're attacked. They're white. Her authority as a legal reporter, in quotes, despite lacking formal legal education, raises questions about the legitimacy of her expertise, especially when prejudging legal outcomes. She sometimes behaves like the legal version of Dr. Matthew Lani, the famous TikTok doctor exposed as a fake. Now, that is character assassination. And number one, you don't have to be an attorney to be a reporter on the legal scene. In my case, when I don't know the law, I'm clear about it. But I certainly know how the law is supposed to function. And she can do the same. I've also served as a legal judge in criminal proceedings. Now, so actually, no, I'm talking about, and I was a criminal investigator. So I can know about the legal system and report on it without having been a judge or a practicing attorney. Why? Because I've worked in the legal system. I don't know her qualifications. I don't really care. That's not the point. He says the responsibilities of journalists extend far beyond the mere dissemination of information. Yes, to a point, but fighting against propaganda and bias. Well, exposing propaganda and bias, like your bias, is what I'm doing. Mkhwebane should have tread carefully when faced with the fine line that separates objective reporting from narrative manipulation. She chose the low road of behaving like a paid propaganda shill instead of a credible journalist. Well, that may very well be the case, and he's entitled to his opinion. He's done nothing wrong there, but that's exactly what the IOL is. Paid propaganda shill. Mkhwebane and Leni Riefenstahl are in the same WhatsApp group. Leni Riefenstahl. That's the propagandist for the Nazis in the 1930s. There was no WhatsApp then. So this is pure ad hominem attacks that have no benefit, and he's trying to get away with it in an op-ed. Mkhwebane and Riefenstahl are in the same WhatsApp group, cut from the same cloth, although at different historical times. One used film to manipulate public opinion, whilst the other used journalism as a cover for vile anti-black sophisticated propaganda. Well, that's just racist drivel from Mr. Peary, and they've been sanctioned for this. The Sunday Independent was sanctioned for this, and so their response is that they threw their toys out of the pram, they're leaving the press council. Well, you lack any credibility whatsoever. And when IOL's appeal is rejected over its criminal acts against Ronald Khoz, will they also leave? Part of the Iqbal surveys group? Well, they'll probably leave too. So can these things operate outside of governance? Well, don't know what to say about that. We shall see. All right, folks, I'm deeply disappointed and disheartened. Mkhwebane said she's bummed out after losing her appeal. Too bad. Too bad. Well, what's going on in 20? What's going on with Action SA, folks? Does anybody know what Herman Mkhwebane is up to? By the way, how does it sound today? Is the sound all right? No one said anything, so it must be okay. Let me listen to that real quick. Let's see what's going on. That real quick. Let's see what's going on. Well, that sounds great. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. Yeah. So I mean, what is Herman up to? Does anybody know what's going on with Herman Mkhwebane? This isn't a sarcastic comment, but literally, is he off his meds? What is he trying to destroy Action SA? Is that his goal here? I mean, it makes no sense. Maybe Herman's the master planner. Maybe he's got something up his sleeve, but he's hoisted on his own petard with his own words. Watch my video from earlier. Now, I didn't manipulate that video. That's video of him saying those things in the context that he implied it. And he's talking about how Action SA would never negotiate with the ANC. It was a deal breaker. Our party would implode if we were involved in anything with the ANC. It was a marker we laid down for the multi-party charter. You must not work with the ANC. 1 year later, he's working with the ANC. And he says, we're not arrogant and we don't threaten. That's exactly what you are and exactly what you've done. Your local structures that threatened the coalition for over a month would collapse, and then they collapsed it by aligning themselves with the EFF and with the ANC. What are you talking about? Pablo Charlie, what are you smoking? Look, are you chewing on khat? Are you doing mandrax at the moment? Have you done some Molly? What's going on, Pablo? You'll ask Bantu Holomisa why he's allowing his mediocre vision to contribute to the current lack of vision and innovation in South Africa. What are you talking about? Bantu Holomisa is the deputy minister in the South African National Defense Force. What innovation is lacking in the SANDF? They have no budget. You can't be innovative when you have no budget. Wow. So watch my video and you answer the question, if you've got one for me. What is the intent of collapsing this? And then he says, they're not arrogant. We're not arrogant. But it's exactly what you are. Exactly what you are, arrogant. And you made a threat. You threatened the government. You threatened the reticents. Yes, Pablo Charlie's definitely off his meds. MK has an urgent bid to block the Judicial Services Commission from meeting. Why? Because their impeached judge, leader of their contingent in Parliament, the ones who refused to sit for Parliament and then walked in after the fact, is not part of the Judicial Services Commission. Last week, following urgent legal action by the Democratic Alliance and civil society, impeached Judge John Schlope was interdicted from serving on the Judicial Services Commission by the full bench of the Western Cape High Court. So the interim interdict will operate until a full review by the National Assembly's decision to designate Schlope as a member. So the MK party is seeking to urgently block the Judicial Services Commission from interviewing prospective judges until the legal battle is over with Judge Schlope. So they're trying to prevent. So the EFF is complaining John Steenhuisen is incompetent. Because something's not getting done in the agricultural department. But here we have incompetence from the MK party, and the EFF is silent. They're going to deny people being confirmed as judges because they only want to get their black supremacist in position. Who? I don't know who their black supremacists are, but they're there somewhere. Well, what do you think about the reprimand for officials who delayed the Thabo Bester prison escape report? Any thoughts on that? Interesting story in Times Live. And they talk about the conundrum for Minister Peter Groenewald. The Correctional Services Department's decision to reassign and give final written warnings to officials implicated in the prison escape by murder and rapist Thabo Bester has sparked debate. Minister Peter Groenewald put a spotlight on the disciplinary processes implemented by government in the Bester saga of public protector. Yeah, anyway, hang on a second. That reminds me of something. I need to check on something here because I wrote, hang on a second here. I wrote to the Freedom Front Plus about this. What response did I get? Anybody? Shoot. Let me do this here. See if that turns up something. Okay, so yeah, I did on June 12th. I asked for something. I've got no response. So I'm writing this back. That was in June 12th I wrote this. July, August, September. It's nearly 4 months later, I've not gotten a response, which is unfortunate. I used to get pretty good cooperation there from the Freedom Front Plus. I'm trying to get an interview with Dr. Groenewald. Anyway. So the report found that there was undue delay in reporting Bester's escape. It found officials Rosaline Palane and Chris Mahonono committed improper conduct by taking 6 months to report the escape. 6 months. They should be sacked and probably charged criminally. That's what should happen. Well, look, I'm not here to defend what's going on, but I am here to make a comment about the unjust position of the legal system, particularly in South Africa. So the so-called pig farm murders that took place in Limpopo. Yeah. So the Limpopo farmer accused of murdering 2 women and feeding their bodies to pigs cannot proceed with his bail application pending the state's appeal on a court order granting him access to a statement. So he cannot get a bail hearing. He's held in prison because the state has appealed his request to see evidence. How is that even possible? How can the state hide evidence from defense attorney? That's what's going on here. I don't care if he's black, he's white, he's blue, he's green, he's brown, and the people involved are the same. I don't care. But how can the state withhold evidence? That's a mistrial in America. Although in the case of Trump, they did it. No mistrial. They withheld evidence and then only presented it at the trial. That must be presented in discovery. The client, the defendant, can't defend himself if he can't see the statement that the police claimed he made. The attorney must see it. Wow. The court heard the bail application could not proceed until the state's appeal is finalized. The state has appealed a ruling by the magistrate's court ordering it to give the statement that he made to police on his arrest on August 23rd. He's been in prison since like the 25th or 26th, 27th, something like that. Been in prison since the end of August. and being denied bail because they are appealing the court's decision that the court's already decided they must present the evidence to the defense attorney. And they're appealing it. Why? To keep him in jail? This isn't justice. This is a joke. An absolute joke. This is just like what happens to Trump. Unbelievable. Even if he's guilty, he deserves the right to see the evidence. How can his defense attorney defend him? What is this, the Soviet Union? Tunisia? Iraq? Well, here's another good move. Not. State-owned disaster known as Transnet, responsible for South Africa's transportation networks like its rails, is breaking in two. It is a human rights violation, Chris. You're right. Transnet's freight rail has officially begun the process to split into an infrastructure manager and an operations company. The unbundling in October is one of the conditions tied to a $47 billion guarantee from Treasury. In other words, let me explain what's going on. So Transnet is breaking into two different entities. Do you know why? So there's twice as many cater hires on boards and executive positions, costing taxpayers twice as much to run the same operations, neither of which are profitable. Yes, that's what's going on. That's what's going on here. And the $47 billion is a subsidy. So the taxpayer is going to be hit with a 47 billion rand bill to break Transnet into two companies so that the ANC can put their friends and family into cater positions and fleece you of more money with two unprofitable companies, just like they're doing with Eskom. Well, it is a two-tier legal system, Charles. Look at the bail that was set for convicted politicians who were charged for high crimes, misdemeanors. And we see for the charged murders, they get like 300 rand or 3,000 rand bail, whereas the guy who flipped over a vehicle purportedly in Senegal was given like 100,000 rand bail, stuck in prison because he couldn't raise the bail. So the judges claim that they're supposed to make the bail that's something achievable for the defendant. It has nothing to do with the charge. Well, that's bullshit. When you put someone in prison, when you're pending charges or prosecution, you deny bail based on flight risk and based on the severity of the crime if the evidence is overwhelming. You don't just go, oh, this person's unemployed, so we're going to make the bail 1,000 rand. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. But that's the excuse they use. Anyway. Folks, the body of a little 3-year-old boy has been found in the Hlumatati Daki, was found in the Cape Town Dam. 3-year-old. How did that happen? Was he kidnapped? Was he murdered? No. His parents weren't responsible. The devastated father, Lizo Pelo, said, "We didn't think anything like this would ever happen to our lastborn. Seeing his body lying there lifeless and heartbreaking for me because my baby was so full of life." Police, he said police fetched him and his wife at 10 a.m. Well, that's not important. Now, Pelo was puzzled about why his son was near the dam. It was daylight. He always knew his way home. He was playing right in front of the gate. The mother's boy, Asanda Daki, recalled the day that he went missing. It's a public holiday, and I plan to do laundry and spring clean the house. The 41-year-old said her husband had left to do a part-time job, and their son had been playing alone at home. Soon, he saw the neighborhood children outside and insisted on joining them. He went to meet his friends, and I called him back to eat. You left a 3-year-old boy unattended on the street. You left a 3-year-old boy unattended on the street. You don't leave 3-year-olds unattended ever. 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 What the hell's wrong with these people? Even as a teenager raising my little sister, I never left her unattended. That's ridiculous. And if people take offense because I'm criticizing the parents, too bad for you. This child should be alive. Well, folks, day 0. No, not Cape Town. Gauteng. It's coming. No more water for you. No soup for you. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. There is a direct need to be absolutely prepared. Day 0 prediction in 5 years. Alex Patrick running the story in Propaganda 24. Experts predict that Gauteng will face day 0 within the next 5 years. Water security is at risk due to infrastructure failures and climate-induced droughts exacerbated by El Nino. Now, that is a lie. That is a lie, because the drinking water that Gauteng uses doesn't come from well water predominantly. It comes overwhelmingly from the highlands of Lesotho. There's no shortage of water in the highlands of Lesotho. The dams are full. The water's available. The problem is the infrastructure is not there because ANC looted the money. They never finished the project that the National Party started. The sluice that comes out at Clarence was almost complete when the National Party gave up power. The ANC allowed the project to continue until it was completed and then never finished phase 2 or phase 3. That's why there'll be no water. Plus, there's too many damn people in Gauteng. That's the other problem. Climate change, El Nino. No, that's not why. Namibia's baobab trees, we've been told, another climate lie. They died because of climate change. The drought induced in Namibia. Yeah, like Namibia is a tropical jungle. Not, except for the Caprivi Zipfel, the Caprivi district now. Yeah, so, wow. The baobab, dead in Namibia. Except it was a lie. It was a lie, folks. It was a lie. Well, the water starts out drinkable, Alan, in the highlands of Lesotho. It's perfectly fine and clean water in the highlands of Lesotho. What happens to it as a consequence of mistreatment is up to South Africans. Namibia's oldest tree had been around since Christ was born, but reports of its death were greatly exaggerated by the climate zealots. The Dorsland, or the Thirstland, the Dorsland baobab was among more than a dozen of Africa's largest and oldest flowering trees to be declared dead by scientists, who said the cause was probably droughts, rising temperatures, and climate change. Also written off was the Platland baobab on a farm in South Africa, which had become a tourist attraction after its hollow trunk was turned into a wine cellar and bar. News of their demise, along with 13 more Southern Africa's most notable baobabs, was in a 2018 report published in the journal Nature Plants that suggested changing weather patterns were fatally parching the continent's ancient trees. Now, Sarah Fenter, a baobab ecologist who had observed no spike in mortality during her fieldwork, returned to the most famous trees to check for signs of life. But climate change killed the baobabs. Not only is the cohort of Southern Africa's oldest and largest baobabs enduring, but most baobab populations in Africa are healthy and stable, with very low mortality rates. Fenter wrote in her own study conducted in 2023 in Botswana, South Africa, Namibia, and Zimbabwe. Of the 15 trees written off in 2018 by the fake climate zealots, which were scientists from the Babas Boulay University in Romania, well known for its science, Fenter found 10 were still growing. Checking in on another 13 in the region, she found that they were thriving. These included the Segole baobab in South Africa's Limpopo, which has a 33-meter circumference. It takes 20 people holding hands to circle the girth. Wow. So more climate zealotry and lies. Yeah. Baobabs are doing quite well in Southern Africa, despite the lies published in 2018 to get people up in arms about Botswana and Namibia being dry. Hello. Have you been to Africa? You know, it's a desert. It's called the Kalahari. Another one called the Namib. Yeah, they're desert countries. Oh, good Lord. Baobabs surviving just fine. The lies told, once again, just like the climatologist in the UK who altered and doctored climate data to lie to people, just like the people altered ice cores from Antarctica, claiming that this was never the case. Idiots, liars. The velvet chicken, the velvet chicken has survived for a long time. Well, it's on, folks. It's on like Donkey Kong in neighboring Botswana, next to Namibia and South Africa. The candidates for president for the 30 October election are finally published. Less than a month before the election? What the heck is that? Well, actually, a month before. This should have been published months ago. They have published who the candidates are. And here we go. Botswana's High Court has confirmed 4 presidential candidates will run in the general elections. Among them is incumbent Mkhwebane Eric Masisi, who is seeking a second and unwarranted term. And look at these sycophants. Vote BDP with Masisi's face on their shirts. These people are fools. By law, presidential candidates must provide proof of their Chief Justice that they have required a number of supporters to be eligible to run. And the High Court verified 4 of the 5 candidates. The presidential candidates will be Masisi, Dumo Boko, leader of the opposition coalition Umbrella for Democratic Change, and none other than perpetual permanent politician ever since his college days when I lived in Botswana. It's none other than Dumelang Salashando of the Botswana Congress Party. Also, Mapeto Ratili from the Botswana Patriotic Front. Biggie Butale from a smaller party, the Botswana Republican Party, failed to meet requirements. So there you have it. Masisi, Boko, Salashando, and Ratile. There are your candidates for the election in Botswana. Choose wisely. Not Masisi. He'll win. Oh, my goodness. Zimbabwe imposing limits, well, the shops are, amidst panic buying after the big drop in the value of crappy, fake, printed money by the corrupt kleptocracy of ZANU-PF. Shops across Zimbabwe have imposed one item per person rules for products such as milk to fend off panic buying triggered by a new loss of faith in the country's worthless currency. Last week, former retailers warned the government that they would go out of business if they were forced to continue selling the crappy Zig. Now, retailers such as Pick and Pay and OK Supermarket have warned that they may have to close shops after the shock official devaluation of 43%. Well, Zimbabwe is going out of business again. Going out of business again, folks. Hey, here's some good news. Turning our attention to Rwanda. Don't baobab trees store most of their water in their trunks? I'm not sure if it's trunks or roots. Why do all the parties have Botswana name? Because I guess they think they need that, right? To distinguish themselves from neighboring states. Lee Lowe says, my half-mens is doing great. I assume that's a child. This is some good news from Rwanda. Gorillas, which were on the verge of extinction, the mountain gorillas, are making a comeback because of tourism, showing the value of tourism, something South Africa should pay attention to instead of killing its rhinos. Rwanda will to name 22 baby gorillas this year, 40 years after they nearly disappeared. Of course, Jane Goodall tried to save them. Rwanda's Kitwa Zina ceremony will give 22 baby gorillas their names on October 18th as the population of the once critically endangered apes continues to grow alongside tourism marketing efforts. Since the ceremony was launched 20 years ago, it's seen 395 baby gorillas named. We'll be naming 22 baby gorillas. We're excited to welcome past and new namers from around the world whose names will be revealed in the coming days. Last year, Rwanda recorded almost $500 million from 1.4 million visitors to see the gorillas. That's 1% of Rwanda's GDP just to see the gorillas. Wow. According to the last gorilla census that covered 3 countries, that included, of course, Rwanda, the DRC. Their population has grown to just over 1,000. That's a big jump for 1970 when only 274 gorillas were in existence, and the low point in 1980 when it dropped to 254. In Rwanda alone, there are over 600 gorillas. That's 25% more than there were in 2016. These apes are only found in high-altitude mountainous forests with elevations of 2,500 to 4,000 meters. So there you go. They're in Burundi, Rwanda, and the Congo. Protected, finally, and growing. Well, a wider war is underway, folks, after Iran attacks Israel yesterday. Yeah, the public can name the gorillas, scientists. That's how it works. Last year, they had celebrities like Kevin Hart who came and named gorillas. Who else? I think it mentions who they were, who actually named these things. Looking to see. Oh, Idris Elba and Kevin Hart last year among the celebrities who named the gorillas. Guess they don't like white people doing it. Must be racist. The wider war, according to the New York Times, and they're correct. The United States is now a belligerent in this conflict. We are at war with Iran. Thank you, Joe Biden, for that disastrous policy. Well, Israel's campaign or operations in southern Lebanon continue. They vowed retaliation for Iran, but meanwhile, they continue the ground operations in southern Lebanon. That's an airstrike in the village of Kfar Kila. So the offensive continues in southern Lebanon. Well, last night we heard from propagandists on media how about the missiles did no damage, nobody died, nothing, they're inconsequential. The Iron Dome caught all of them and the other air defense systems knocked all the missiles down. Well, that was a lie. We saw footage of missiles striking the ground, and not one, but many. I saw one image in which at least 15 missiles hit their targets. Only one was intercepted by the air defense. So today, the Israeli Defense Force admits the truth that some of those missiles hit air bases. Well, then that's a legitimate target if you're at war. Damage was caused to offices, maintenance areas, but not to any aircraft or critical infrastructure. And they say that Iran did not fire any hypersonic missiles as they claimed. Well, I saw the missiles coming in. They were clearly not hypersonic. Those were not hypersonic missiles. It'd been a lot faster. United States envoy Linda Thomas Greenfield does the right thing and calls for the United Nations to condemn and sanction Israel over the attack. U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Linda Thomas Greenfield urges members of the Security Council during an emergency session on the latest Mideast escalation. This is a moment for the Council to speak out with one voice and condemn Iran for its unprovoked attack against another member state, and equally important to impose serious consequences on the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps for its actions. In a broad sense, Iran was complicit in the October 7th attacks on Israel through its funding, training, capabilities, and support of the military wing of Hamas. And after Hamas's horrific attack carried out nearly a year ago today, the United States sent a clear message to Iran: don't exploit the situation in ways that would risk propelling the region into a broader war. And that's exactly what Iran has done. At this hour, I can report conclusively. Let me get the news report here. There you go. At this hour, this breaking news coming from Latuli House: the ANC does not condemn the Iranian crimes against humanity and war crimes committed in their attack on civilian targets of Israel in an unprovoked launching of war on October 1st, 2024. Again, the African National Congress does not condemn the unprovoked crimes against humanity committed by the Iranian terror regime on October 1st, 2024. Meanwhile, the United Nations Security Council also does not condemn it. The UN General Assembly does not condemn it. The Arab League does not condemn it. The European Union has not condemned it. These are all anti-Semitic, anti-Christian, anti-white, slimy, nasty organizations that have said nothing about this illegitimate attack because they favor it. They endorse it. The African Union, silent on this issue. To be fair, maybe not an issue they need to comment on. Yeah. There you go. There you go, folks. That's the reality of what's going on here. Can't deny it. Can't deny it. So who are the Japanese? Well, for years, we've been hoodwinked into believing that they came from Korean Peninsula, overwhelmingly. But two subgroups were alleged to have been the groups that formed the ethnic cohort that became what has often been called a largely homogenous Japanese identity. But people are calling that into question now. And they have genetic evidence to prove it was actually three groups. Three groups. By studying the genomes of more than 3,000 people across Japan, researchers have shed light on the population's complex ancestry. The work may also prove the way for future precision medicine. Interesting. A genetic study led by scientists from Riken's Center for Integrative Medical Sciences uncovered evidence that people in Japan descended from three ancestral groups. The findings published recently in the journal Science Advances challenges the long-standing belief that there were two main ancestral groups in Japan: the indigenous Jomon hunter-gatherer fishers and the rice-farming migrants from East Asia. Instead, the researchers identified a third group with potential ties to Northeast Asia, the so-called Emishi people, lending further evidence and credence to a tripartite origins theory first suggested back in 2021. So now we're saying the Japanese came from three groups. Well, meanwhile, something interesting does come out of Japan. Something interesting. Japan's foreign minister is calling for a NATO alliance for Asia. Well said, buddy. Long overdue. That's right. Japan's foreign minister is talking about a future NATO-like alliance for Asia. I think so. Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, the United States, Philippines, Australia. Sounds good to me. Yep. The idea of an Asian NATO floated by Japan's new prime minister is one to consider in the mid to long term. But not right now, said the new foreign minister, Takashi Iwa. Asian nations expressed skepticism and reticence in response to the call from prime minister who took up his post. I think it's one idea for the future among efforts to create a multi-layered network of like-minded countries and boost regional deterrence. Yep, I think it's long overdue. The United States has also brushed off the idea. It's too early for such talks, says Daniel Kittenbrick, U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for East Asia and the Pacific. Why is it too early? The best way would be for defense and security cooperation relationship that spans Indo-Pacific. Such a framework would not be aimed at any specific country. Why? Why is it too early? Too early? World War II ended in 1945. How many years do you want to wait for this? The Cold War ended in 1990. How many years do you want to wait for this? 30 years ago, 34 years ago. Meanwhile, Ukraine is getting its hat handed to it. The grifter-in-chief, the pianist piano player, who recently came and did a campaign event illegally, foreign influence on elections in favor of Kamala Harris at the Scranton ammunition plant. That would be Volodymyr Zelensky from Kyiv in Ukraine. Came over here to beg for more money and castigate us for not giving more money to prosecute his war murdering Ukrainians and Russians. Well, That war's not going well for Ukraine. Not going well at all as they retreat. Wall Street Journal reports the loss of Vuhledar is a sign of growing pressure on Ukraine's eastern front as they pull out of eastern town. Russian forces grinding forward. Ukraine said Wednesday it pulled troops out of the eastern coal mining town of Vuhledar as its front comes under severe strain from mounting Russian assaults. The town was once home to 10,000 residents, become a defense bastion for Ukraine, where it destroyed dozens of Russian armored vehicles and hundreds of troops. But Russia had it all but surrounded and pounded with massive glide bombs in recent days that Ukraine lacks the means to counter. So they lost it. They're facing an increasingly bleak picture after 2.5 years of war. Russia is a few miles from Pokrovsk and piling pressure on two other eastern cities, Chizhyar and Toretsk. Ukrainian troops are outgunned and outnumbered, and the end is coming. Joe Biden's effort to distract from his corruption in Ukraine has proven successful. He'll be leaving office soon, and then the war can end. Danish police investigate two blasts near Israel's embassy in Copenhagen early this morning. No injuries reported. It was too early to say how big the blast had been, but reported they were grenades. Danish police investigated two blasts in the immediate vicinity of Israel's embassy in the northern outskirts of Copenhagen and concluded they were likely caused by hand grenades. No injuries reported. It's too early to say how big the blast had been. It's clear the Israeli embassy is in the immediate vicinity and that it's naturally also an angle that we look at. Of course, the Israeli embassy is being targeted, and this is what happens when you allow your country to be invaded by people like that. You live with the consequences of it. So that's your problem, Denmark. That's what you get. As I said, Danish police have said they've detained 3 people who were near the blast. Those are Danish police, not soldiers right there, folks. Yeah. Danish police said Wednesday they were investigating 2 explosions in the vicinity of Israel's Copenhagen embassy and had detained 3 people. 2 were apprehended on a train at the main railway station. A third person was detained elsewhere in the capital. It's not immediately clear how those held by the police are linked to the blast. They occurred at 3:20 in the morning. It's clear the Israeli embassy was the target. Police were supposed to hold a press conference at 1200 GMT, which was several hours ago, and I haven't seen any results from it. Well, does Chinese investment help Ireland? Chinese companies are pouring into Ireland now. Just a few years ago, there were just 25 companies operating here. Now there's 40. And this is important because there's a lot of pressure on American companies to return back to the United States. So Americans are not necessarily there. Wow. The Irish economy has been increasingly attracting Chinese investment. Does that come with a reputational cost? Yes, it does. For some, the new flood of yuan into the country offers Ireland an opportunity to reduce its reliance on being a European base for U.S. tech giants such as Apple and Alphabet, and it creates jobs. Don't forget Dell, also a base for Dell. Yep. But it comes at a cost, a reputational damage to Ireland. So you got to find a way to balance that. The Webb telescope has discovered beauty salons on Pluto's moon. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Beauty salons are on Pluto's moon. What am I talking about? That's right. We've discovered beauty salons. That's right. NASA's Webb Ellis telescope detects traces of carbon dioxide on the surface of Pluto's largest moon. It's detected for the first time traces of carbon dioxide and hydrogen peroxide on the surface of Charon, which is about half Pluto's size. There's Charon. So let me explain. Obviously, with hydrogen peroxide, they found a beauty salon where women are getting their hair bleached, and the carbon dioxide is for them talking too much. Or maybe it's dudes getting their hair bleached and talking too much. Well, folks, here's a news story that's not a news story. I thought I'd share this with you before we get to the U.S. news stories. So Connor Feely in Space.com reports that some of Uranus's moons may be able to support life, but we don't know. We don't know. The most exciting prospect the Uranus moons is that they could still host subsurface oceans. But we've never been there. We have nothing to determine it. We can't figure it out. Planetary scientists know that some of Jupiter's and Saturn's moons likely possess subsurface water. These include ocean worlds such as the Jovian moon Europa and the Saturnian moon Enceladus. But they're not in the Goldilocks zone. Yeah, well, you think moons around Uranus in the Goldilocks zone? They're out cold out there. Anyway, there's no evidence here whatsoever. This is a story to make a story. Guys talking about something. They're calling for exploration of Uranus. Well, we need it. Ladies and gentlemen, as I said earlier, Joseph Robinette Biden is now engaged the United States in a war. He has put our troops in harm's way and engaged us as a de facto belligerent in Iran's war on Israel by firing Iranian missiles. We are now legitimate targets for the Iranians. He said the attacks appear to have been defeated and ineffective. Turns out that's not true. Largely ineffective, but not ineffective. This is a testament to Israel's military capability in the U.S. military. It's a testament to intensive planning between the United States and Israel to anticipate and defend against brazen attack we expected. Well, that's not a surprise. Should have been doing that all along. Well, Joe Biden's got some tough choices as the greedy, selfish pricks known as longshoremen demand a 77% pay rise. And the government's behind them. The White House has firmly backed the union, but Democrats are eager to avoid economic disruptions. So the White House is demanding that the companies cave and give 77% pay rise to these clowns. Wow. U.S. port strike is backed by the White House. Rather than back America, they back greedy employees. 77% pay raise. These people are insane. President Joe Biden's administration has heaped pressure on U.S. port employers to raise their offer to secure a labor deal with dock workers, whose strike entered a second day on Wednesday. The strike was reported by the International Longshoremen's Association, which has blocked goods from food and automobile shipments. Wow. Already 38 container vessels were backed up at U.S. ports as of Tuesday. There were just 3 on Sunday. So ships are coming to our shore and sitting out there and driving up the cost of our goods, courtesy of greedy longshoremen who are basically forklift operators who want a 77% pay raise. Well, let's take a look at what happened in the debate last night from the media's perspective, all over the place. Let me give you some perspectives from this. First off, the Wall Street Journal says Vance seeks to temper Trump's policies, and Waltz cast the former president as dangerous. With Donald Trump and Kamala Harris at odds, the matchup between the running mates took on more intrigue. Yeah, all right. So that's kind of a neutral stance. That's the Wall Street Journal. The Guardian has an op-ed disguised as news, but it is listed as op-ed. J.D. Vance's slick performance can't change the danger of another Trump presidency by Margaret Sullivan. I think the fact that the Guardian gives Margaret Sullivan a place to print her ink and lies is more of a danger to democracy than Donald Trump. So the New York Times surprisingly says Vance's excellent reviews will enrage Trump. 13 writers who won the vice presidential debate. So a lot of them are saying that he won it. Look at that. So Vance won. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 said Vance won. 2 said it was a good debate, and only 2 said Waltz won it. Well, clearly the New York Times contributors overwhelmingly say that J.D. Vance won the debate. An instant poll, according to CNN, there's no clear winner. Wall Street Journal balanced. New York Times leftist surprisingly tells the truth. Vance overwhelmingly won the debate. And then CNN comes back with, well, there's no clear winner. Oh, Ariel Edwards-Levy and Jennifer Agista. It's the estrogen network, employing only women. Registered voters who watched Tuesday's debate between vice presidential nominees were closely divided over which candidate did the better job. An instant poll debate watchers conducted, and the event left viewers with more positive views of both candidates than they held pre-debate. Yeah, I think that's fair. I don't have a positive view, but I'm less shocked by Waltz than I was. So here is the Washington Post, another leftist rag, and look at this. Wow, who won the debate? Voters weigh in on how Vance and Waltz performed. Well, according to this, 14 people said Vance did better. 8 said that Waltz did better. There you go. According to the Washington Post. So they tell the truth again, too. Shocking. There was a major problem in the debate last night. The moderators actually called little Timmy Stolen Valor Waltz on the carpet for one of his biggest lies. They didn't get him for his stolen valor for the military, his drunken DUI, his lies. But they did get him for lying about being at Tiananmen Square in 1989. He lied. He wasn't there. And his excuse was to not answer the question. So let's see what CNN says. Now here CNN actually reports the facts. This is by Aaron Pellish, Andrew Kaczynski, and M. Steck. Well, my goodness. 2 dudes at the Estrogen Network. I mean, that's surprising. They're probably going to get fired when they find out they're men. Maybe they're not men. Waltz says that he misspoke. He misspoke after unearthed newspaper reports undercut his lie that he was in Hong Kong during Tiananmen Square. His comments during Tuesday night's vice presidential debate follow the unearthing of reports that contradict previous claims about his travel to China, including a claim that he was in Hong Kong preparing for a teaching position during the Tiananmen Square protest. My community knows who I am. They saw where I was at. Look, I'll be the first to tell you, I've poured my heart into my community. I've tried to do the best I can, but I've not been perfect. I'm not a knucklehead at times. I'm a knucklehead at times, but it's always been about that. Those same people elected me to Congress 12 years. That's because they're morons. They're morons. They're hoodwinked by your glib gab. You're a liar. You're a stolen valor guy. Everything you do, you misrepresent. You can't be honest about anything. And if we can't trust what you say about where you've been and what you've done, and we can't trust about who you are and what you say you are, and we know that you lied to a judge and you lied about your hearing disability and you lied about your drunkenness going 97 miles an hour in a 55 zone. We know about that. How in the world can we trust anything you say about Donald Trump or J.D. Vance? We can't trust any of it. Can't trust any of it. Well, there's a factory in Tennessee in which workers continue to work as the floodwaters rose, and now an investigation is underway. Helene's flooding swept away 11 workers at a Tennessee factory, and now the state is investigating. Tennessee state authorities said Wednesday that they are investigating the company behind a plastics factory where 11 workers were swept away by flooding. 5 of them were rescued. The other 6 unknown. 2 are dead and 4 unaccounted for. Wow. Tennessee Bureau of Investigation spokesman Leslie Earhart said Wednesday that the agency is investigating allegations involving impact plastics at the direction of a local prosecutor, looking to see if criminal charges need to be filed because people kept working. Joe Biden will visit North Carolina. Wow. 5 days after the biblical storm hits and at least 160 people are dead, billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars of damage, homes destroyed, churches destroyed, factories destroyed, bridges destroyed, infrastructure gone, no communications, no water, no food, no sewage. And 5 days later, Joe Biden gets off his broken ass and goes to North Carolina. If this had been George Bush, oh my God, he's a racist. Hey, he hates black people. Of course, Asheville's almost entirely white, but never mind that. We'll find some black folks who are victims, and then we'll call the race card. But where's Joe Biden? He's pouring money into Ukraine. He says nothing we can do. We've done all we can. We have 4,600 government workers working on it. Where? From D.C.? They're not down there. People all over North Carolina keep saying, we haven't seen FEMA. They haven't been here. They haven't been here. What a moron. This country's falling apart. Well, Donald Trump has declined an interview to be on 60 Minutes. I don't blame him. It's a piece of crap publication or outlet. CBS News said Tuesday Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump has declined to participate in an interview with 60 Minutes for an election special, which will go forward next Monday with Democratic opponent Kamala Harris. Wow. Asked for comment, the former president's campaign spokesperson Stephen Chung said, fake news. He said there were discussions, but nothing was ever locked in. So he won't be part of their program, which normally airs on Sunday, but this time it's airing on Monday. Well, we don't have enough people in this country. We've got to go around and recruit people. Yeah, that's right. That's why we flood our country with Somalis, and we flood it with Senegalese. We're flooding with Haitians. None of them have any business being here. No, none of them being persecuted by it. Nobody's being persecuted in Senegal. It's ridiculous. But we have people actively looking to bring homosexuals into America. That's their mission. Yep. Why? Cabral Ngunu's life in Cameroon quickly unraveled after neighbors caught him with his boyfriend. A crowd surrounded the boyfriend's house and beat him. His family learned of the relationship and kicked him out. Alone and with little money, he took a dangerous 4-year journey through at least 5 countries. He was sexually assaulted in a Libyan prison, harassed in Tunisia, and tried unsuccessfully to take a boat to Europe. So, he's not a legitimate refugee asylum seeker. No. Because he left his country and went somewhere else. He was living in Tunisia perfectly fine. And then he tried to invade Europe. And because all that failed, we have to take him in. No. He said, the worst thing was that they caught us, so it was not easy for my family. My sisters told me I need to get out of the house because my place is not there, so that's what really pushed me to leave my country. His troubles drew attention after he joined a protest outside the UN Relief Agency in Tunisia. He eventually arrived in the United States, landing in San Francisco this March. Why? Why is he here? He went to 5 different countries, destination shopping, and we have to take him in? It's our responsibility. That's one less home available to Americans, driving up the cost of homes. That's one more job that's not available to Americans. He joined a growing list of LGBTQ plus people accepted into the Welcome Corps, which launched last year and pairs Americans with newly arrived refugees. So far, the resettlement program has connected 3,500 sponsors, 1,800 refugees, and more want to help. 100,000 people signed up to be sponsors. At least 100,000 treasonous bastards to America. You take care of America first. This is not a legitimate refugee. Now, being his life in danger for being a homosexual in a country is a legitimate basis to seek asylum. That's legitimate. However, leaving Cameroon and going to 5 different countries, then seeking to invade Europe and living safely in one of those countries, at least one, does not justify you destination shopping coming to America. Unbelievable. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the racist WNBA cannot shut its mouth. The racist WNBA, a league full of racist basketball players who are anti-white, anti-America, like Brittany Griner. All these people, anti-American, they can't shut their mouths. They go after a pioneering journalist and attack her. I think she's Jewish too. Yeah, so maybe it's anti-Semite. And they attack her and accuse her of the very things that they are, the thin-skinned WNBA. This is an interesting story. In a thrilling but delicate moment for the WNBA, a journalist's focus on Caitlin Clark is stirring tension among players and the press. One day last week with her team, the Connecticut Sun, in the first-round playoff series against WNBA star Caitlin Clark's Indiana Fever guard Dejana Carrington was surrounded by a group of reporters. Carrington had swatted Clark in the face while reaching for the ball in a previous game, leaving her with a black eye. So USA Today columnist Christine Brennan, a groundbreaking leader in female journalism, said, "Did you do that on purpose?" Carrington said, "No." Brennan followed up saying, "Were you laughing about it later in the game?" She said, "I just told you I didn't even know I hit her." "No, you didn't. You didn't say that. You never said that." The exchange came at a tense moment for the league, which has long been powered by women of color, but has seen a recent success largely attributed to Caitlin Clark. No. The WNBA success is entirely attributable to Caitlin Clark. A little bit to Angel Reese, but not so much. Caitlin Clark. That's why I watched the WNBA this year. That's why millions of people watch the bogus, lame, boring, no dunk, tiny little basketball with a huge hoop WNBA. That's why we watched it, because of Caitlin Clark, who brought energy and excitement. Just like a lot of us started watching the NBA in 1979 because of Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. And stayed with it when Michael Jordan came into the league. And when Jordan retired, I left the NBA. People are watching the WNBA because of Caitlin Clark, not because of anybody else, not because of Asia Wilson, who's an amazing player. Another MVP performance, Asia Wilson. But nobody's watching it. I haven't watched a single WNBA game since Caitlin Clark's team lost 2-0 against Connecticut. No one cares. Wow. So the exchange came, okay, so it was this backdrop that the questions didn't sit well in the Connecticut locker room. The women in the Connecticut locker room were angry. A few minutes later, the Suns' DeWanna Bonner, the tall, twiggy-looking, 30-some-year-old player who is quite good as well, confronted her. She went and confronted the journalist. Brennan repeatedly tried to introduce herself and explain that what she said is Bonner implored the columnist to treat her teammates like humans. Treat the teammates like humans by asking a legitimate question? After nearly 2 minutes of mostly talking past each other, Bonner returned to the locker room. Now, Brennan has confirmed that exchange and confrontation with the Washington Post. Brennan is working on a book about Caitlin Clark. It's an unauthorized book about her. And she routinely appears on TV. 3 days. So she asked why WNBA is so sensitive and told multiple reporters that if anyone had questions about her awareness of the racial dynamics in play, they should read her coverage of former NFL quarterback, activist, lunatic, loser, sorry, pathetic, waste of human DNA, Colin Kaepernick, among other work stretching back decades. Now, of course, Brennan is white and Carrington is black. 3 days later, the Women's National Basketball Players Association issued a statement calling for the league to revoke the credentials of Brennan, one of the most recognizable sports journalists in all of America. To unprofessional members of the media like Christine Brennan, you are not fooling anyone. That so-called interview in the name of journalism is a blatant attempt to bait a professional athlete into participating into a narrative that is false and designed to fuel racist, homophobic, and misogynistic vitriol on social media. You cannot hide behind your tenure, the statement said. It added, you have abused your privileges and do not deserve the credentials this to you. Well, this is a racist, misogynist, homo-loving organization. Where does homophobia come into this? Where did misogyny come into it? It's a woman talking to a woman. There's no anti-women stuff in there. The thin-skinned WNBA Players Association and the league itself are a problem. They are squandering their golden moment in the sun. First off, by the ridiculous technical fouls called on Caitlin Clark all season, targeting her, by the vicious assaults on her. She's been assaulted on the court, and fouls not even called. Flagrant technical fouls not called throughout the season. That hit in her face wasn't even called a foul. She got a black eye and was knocked to the ground. It was obvious for anybody watching the game. A flagrant black privilege for black racist attacking Caitlin Clark in the WNBA. Unbelievable. So Brendan, in an interview, called the questions Journalism 101. It's something I've done for the entirety of my career, and I think that every journalist has done the entirety of his or her career. Other journalists, including her boss at USA Today, agreed. We reject the notion the interview perpetrated any narrative other than to get the player's perspective directly, which is what it was. But the thin-skinned, homo-fearing homosexuals in the league, Bonner's a homosexual. I don't know about Carrington. I don't really care. But Bonner is homosexual. We know that because the broadcast endlessly promoted her wedding, her upcoming wedding. Oh, she's getting married to one of her teammates. So they're the ones bringing homosexuality into this. They're the ones bringing sexuality into it. They're the ones bringing, this is nonsense. Who gives a flip? The WNBA spokesman did not reply to a request for comment. Brennan, a 66-year-old pioneer in sports journalism, is the first president of the Association for Women in Sports Media in the 1980s when she worked for the Washington Post. She remembers going to her editors and asking why the paper didn't cover the major women's golf tournaments or the women's Final Four, and promptly got some of those assignments. Well, because the women's golf tournaments are boring, dear. They're boring. The women's Final Four, interesting. Yep. Anyway, her upcoming book is On Her Game, Caitlin Clark and the Revolution in Women's Sports, is unauthorized. And she's not had a sit-down interview with Caitlin Clark. Anyway, the WNBA, just idiots. Idiots. All right, I had a story on Viking graves being found in Denmark, but I'm not going to talk about that. That's kind of boring right now. Anyway, to the 89 people currently here, that means at least 24 of you haven't hit the like button, probably more. What's wrong with you? Come on, hit the like button. Don't cost you nothing but a moment of your time.
That was easy.
If Caitlin Clark was black, they would have kept their mouth shut. She wouldn't have had these technical fouls called against her. Most of them anyway. She deserves some. Look, Caitlin Clark deserves some technical fouls for talking back to officials, but she's not alone. Boy, I'll tell you what, whiny babies in the WNBA. Watching the WNBA, the number of players who cry and whine to officials all the time, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So Caitlin Clark deserved technical fouls that weren't called on her, but most of the ones called on her were BS. It was called on her because she's white and because the black players are envious. Not all of them. There's some really good players in the WNBA, some really good human beings, but there's enough people who act like that. Yeah, exactly, Light Rain. Tim Waltz, I was there when they crushed democracy. Yeah, that's not something you want to say. Yeah, she will be the greatest of all time in the WNBA. Unless, someone attacks her and she gets a career-ending injury, which is what they try to do. I mean, she's been physically assaulted. She's been hit in the back of the head, knocked down, away from the ball. She's been smacked. She's had so many things happen. The Iron Dome wasn't outsmarted Angelique so much. It was just overwhelmed. And it was they claim largely successful. But I saw at least 15 missiles that hit in just one video footage. All right, let's get back to what we're saying here. Now, let's just say seeker. What's this? Government didn't finish the Highlands project. Correct. No, I know, Charles. I know I'm correct. I'm usually correct on these topics. Poor parenting caused a poor child's death. It is sad. It's poor parenting. Who leaves a 3-year-old child unattended? What's retirement age in the Army? Pablo Charlie, that depends. So the retirement age is based first off of years of service. In the U.S. Army, in the U.S. military, you must be up or out. So if you don't get promoted, you don't get to stay in the military. So if you're a sergeant and you have 14 years, you're out. I think 12 you have to make staff sergeant, something like that. If you're a staff sergeant and you have 18 years, you're out. You don't get to go to 20. If you make sergeant first class, you can go to 20 years. Now, staff sergeants, there are exceptions, but by and large, you can't retire as a sergeant. That just doesn't happen from active component, unless it's a medical retirement. And they're always, it always kills me. You're medically retired, and they say they're retiree. Well, that's not the same thing. If you were disabled as a consequence of combat, it's not the same thing as being a retiree, but they're categorized as retiree. Anyway, so I've seen people with, E5 retiree cards because they were medically separated, and not necessarily for missing a limb, but for something else. So you have to get promoted. In order for me to stay in the military 30 years as an officer, I had to make full colonel by my 24th year. If I didn't make it by my 24th year, I would not be in the Army. I'd have to get out as lieutenant colonel. Can't stay that long. But I made full colonel and stay at 30. So everyone has to get out 30 years. So if you come in at 18, that makes it, 28, 38, 48. At the age of 48, you have to retire. But for officers, that's rare. You usually come in at 22. So usually that's 52. You have to retire by 52. The exception are people who are nominated and confirmed by the Senate for general officer. General officers can stay longer. You can stay up to 40 years without congressional approval beyond that. That's the law. So normally, I think the retirement age for military officers, if it's 30 years, because you could have somebody who goes 30 years and gets over the age of 60 because they were enlisted and then became a warrant officer, or were enlisted and became a commissioned officer, or were enlisted and became a warrant and commissioned officer. Each of those statuses is different legally. So my 6 years as an enlisted person did not count, 6.5 years did not count against my officer time. So my clock restarted when I became an officer. If I become a warrant officer for 5 years, then I'd have 5 more years and I could go 5 years longer. But I think you get to like 62 or something like that and you have to retire, regardless of number of years of service. So anyway, most military retirees retire in their late 30s, early 40s, if they go full career in the U.S. military. They still have that $33 billion project to expand Pretoria going. Yep. Ulrich Fenter, welcome to you. Pierre Orban is here. Welcome to you. Scientist says climate change is real. Of course it's real. The Earth is rotating 18,000 miles an hour on its axis, going around the sun, spinning like a top, and it wobbles, and its magnetic field shift, affecting weather. The pull of the moon's gravity affects weather. The tilt of the Earth affects weather. Weather changes. That's why we have seasons. And climate change, climate changes. 350 million years ago, this planet was heavily oxygenated. Tons of oxygen, which led to an explosion of plant life and human life. The plants consume the carbon dioxide produced by mammals exhaling. So, wow. There is climate change. Happens all the time. We're in cycles. 1,000 years ago, we had a mini ice age because of climate change. Climate change is real. Are you making the claim as scientists that climate change is entirely a man-made phenomenon, or that we have the ability to alter the planet's weather permanently? You can make that argument. Baobabs in Palabora are massive, says Chris Ehlers. Okay. Suppose they measured temps in hot parking lots. I'm not sure what that is. John's feelings are hurt because Erica forgot him. Maybe she didn't see her. I don't see you chatting anywhere, John. Hey, Sue Walsh, how's it going? And who's above Sue? That was Robert Rankin, another sensation seeker with no... Hey, Robert, how's it going? And then we've got... why do all the parties... I already answered that question. Don't babe up trees. I don't know the answer to that one. Scary. Iron Dome. Okay. I'm called The Supper. It's way back. Schwane might get its mayor back. Lee, where did you hear that at? I've seen no reporting on that. They're not going to get Celia Brink. It'd be nice if they did, but they're not going to get it. Baobab store up to 120,000 liters of water or 32,000 gallons in trunks. That's a lot of water, Charles. Oh, Halfman's is a desert plant. Okay. More like beauty spots. Okay. Angelique said, ha. I guess that was about Pluto and the hydrogen peroxide. Did you watch the VP debate? Yes, I broadcast it. Does anybody watch my channel? I swear to God. Oh my goodness. I did say I was going to cover it. Let me go to that. Excuse me. At Real Chris Wyatt. Okay, let me go there. Let me see. There it is. That's all at 300 views. It's ridiculous.
Some days it's sure.
That's an advert by Scott Perry, my congressman. Okay, skip that ad. Yeah, 2 hours and 31 minutes and just 300 views. Only one person is commenting. Pablo Charlie was going through it. So let me post that link. You can watch my commentary. Yes, I watched it. I very much watched it. So here's the link to that on my other channel, my original channel. That ought to have thousands of views, but it doesn't, of course, because YouTube hides my stuff. So there you go. That's the debate. And check it out. Charles says he did indeed. Yep. Okay. Why war now? The U.S. shot down missiles in April last. Is different. Why war now? Well, you asked Joe Biden why he's put in war now. 1/3 of our Navy's in Eastern Med, and we fired at 12 missiles. News is packaged to them in certain political ideological debate. True. Tim is great at Democratic rallies. CNN is like IOL. That's true. Chicken Noodle Network. Chicken Noodle News. That's good, Kurt. And what about him saying he's friends with school shooters? Yeah, what was that all about? Well, he said, I'm friends with school shooters. What was he talking about there? I think he meant to say I'm friends with victims of school shooters. Yeah, the fact checker was fact by Vance. They lied and said there'd be no fact checking, but even their questions were fact checking. They did 3 or 4 questions, intentionally antagonistic, long-winded, like 2-minute question to him, and he gets 2 minutes to answer. It was just ridiculous. Haitians are suing the Trump campaign. Yes, they are. And they're criminal alien invaders who have no business being here. I love how J.D. Vance called out the lies, what I've been saying all along. Well, the Ohio governor said that they're legal. No, they're not. You can't be a criminal alien invader and then get a free hall pass from the Biden regime after you're here saying you're legal, applying for something when you invaded our country. They're criminals. And he was correct to say that was their first criminal act. That was fantastic. But why he didn't talk about the Constitution and abortion is beyond me. What is wrong with Republicans? It's pretty clear. Read the damn Constitution and call the Democrats out on it. Walt sounds better than Cackles. Yeah, J.D. Vance was top drawer. Better than Trump. Yeah. SA mining ramps up retrenchments. Greet the onions. If this election will be a landslide. Yeah, I think it will be a landslide for Trump. Looking for spare dogs and cats. That's not the question. Even the leftist moderator forced him to revisit the question after giving. Yes, that was brilliant. I was shocked. He said, no, that wasn't a question. People know me. They voted for me for 12 years. Dude, were you in Tiananmen Square when that happened? Were you in Hong Kong when that happened in June of 1989 when I was sitting at Ohio University, graduating from Ohio University with high honors in history? Where were you, Timmy? Where were you, Timmy? Were you in Hong Kong? No, you weren't. You lied. Oh, I was there during anti-democratic. I was in Germany during the Cold War. That's 60 years. What the hell does that mean? Liar. Imagine arguing about your communist resume. Exactly. He was there for Mao's Long March and the Cultural Revolution. Yep. Natasha Mazzone is married to Kevin Milam. She's pro. Okay, well, that's Hano Fisaki. Thank you for that. Why did that article say she's a lesbian? Said she's married. I don't get that. Was it a typo? Was it a typo? That doesn't make any sense to me. Like I said, I didn't know that. I don't care. Thank you for correcting the record. Thank you, Hano. I don't know who Kevin Milam is. I don't know who that person is. Thank you for correcting the record. Appreciate that. See, I read that right out of the article. That's what they wrote. I read it right from there. And I'm colored, so I hope I'm allowed to say that, clown world. Well, you're allowed to say whatever you want as long as you don't attack people on race. If Caitlyn Carter's black, okay. Is there proof of racism? No proof of racism. JD made Timmy Boy look like a draconian buffoon. Yeah. Yep. Thank you, Hano Fisaki, for giving us the correct information. One I hadn't thought of, they actually mentioned that galactic dust. Yeah, it's funny. Why didn't they put the first name of Kevin? They said Milam, but they put Kevin down there. I wasn't sure who they were referring to. There were 2 names. One name and the second name. I didn't know either one of them. Then they said... So thank you for correcting that. One hadn't thought they recently mentioned that galactic dust may have changed the Earth's temperature several times in history. That's true. That's true. Oh, my volume is soft. Is that better? Wow. Is that better? Wow. My microphone got turned down. That's a lot louder. My goodness. Wow. How long has that been going on? Starlink is coming south. No, it's not. Where'd you get that from? Hey, John Mosline. Now, Lady Pandora has been to Hong Kong. Garrett, I was in Germany before, during and after the wall came down in '89. Interesting time. Chernobyl, I was there for Chernobyl as well. And the war in Yugoslavia. Yep, I was there for all those things. Yep, I was there for all those things. All right, got to make a change on something here very quickly here. Analytics, let me check on two things. Is he ready? No comment there. All right, let me just double check. I think we're on, but I need to put something in here. Yeah, thank you. I'm going to go back to that story if I have a moment here, if there's time, and read that again. Did I misread it? It's entirely possible. Yep, there it is. So that'll redirect you to the Wednesdays with the Colonel. But I need to go back and see that story again. Let me go back. Where's the news at? Here's the news. That story. And that was on the Independent, wasn't it? Or the Sunday. Oh, where's... let me just get back to the Sunday Independent story and see what they said here. Is that the one it was in? No, it wasn't that. One of these stories. Oh, here it is, yeah. So this is what they said. She claimed bias against Inyanta and Milam, who is the wife of DAMP Natasha Mazzone. I didn't misread that. That implies that she's a lesbian. I mean, it's right there, folks. Robin Franke reported. Is that an editorial error? Thank you for sharing that, Hannes, earlier. And that's the story right there. I'm going to save that article so somebody can't accuse me of getting it wrong. Yeah, so let me save that article, and I'm going to save a screenshot of that because that's what they said. I didn't say that. They did. I mean, that's pretty clear to me. That implies that she is that. But that's, like I said, it's news to me. I never heard of that. So thank you for correcting the record. Well, I'll tell you what, man. Boy, it is trying to be difficult there. Eugene Kurtz says, what pizza? Pizza? Who's talking about pizza, man? 100% Chris, since the beginning, all good, okay? Do you see Timmy Waltz there? Yeah, I did. No, I'm probably in Hong Kong. Pretty sure it's coming. Look it up. Starlink, okay. Where are you getting your information from? Starlink, South Africa. Elon Musk, good news for South Africa. Elon Musk explores. Okay. He said he would love to invest and otherwise support South Africa. Okay? Okay? That's not good news. There's no action taken here. Nope. No. When Starlink launched in South Africa, well, there's nothing here saying it is launching. People are trying to pimp this story up. That's sensationalism. That's not true. What is the Diddy controversy? Well, Eugene Kurtz said the P. Diddy controversy. The dude is charged of sex offenses, sex trafficking, and prostitution, all sorts of things, forcing women into sexual, days-long sexual things. So it's pretty crazy what he's accused of. Slippery Pickle, welcome to you. What's with a pizza, man? Oh, that's why. Slippery Pickle put a pizza up there. Anyone know what the COD on the American Hiker? Nope. I've seen nothing on nothing. It was implied that she fell. No, I don't think he's investing in the country. All right, it's time for me to go over to Ronaldo, folks. You're going to be directed there automatically. So please join us over on Ronaldo Chos for Wednesdays with the Colonel in just a moment. All right, see you over there. Thanks for being here. Cheers. Oh, Busy day. 25 miners out of 120 sick. Oh, yeah. Yeah, kids. A lot of them are kids. Exactly. Cheers, everybody. CN Ronaldo. Come over and join us over there. There are 86 people here. Let's see all of you show up over there.